this new little book review for the book Attached. It is The New Science of Adult Attachment and How It Can Help You Find and Keep Love, written by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. So, super popular book, says over 2 million copies sold. The New York Times mark was revelatory, and this is totally right up my alley with the psychology, attachment, all of that is super aligns to things that I'm a little into. So initially this was going to be done as book club, but the times and days were not meshing well for everyone. So I was like, okay, well, I'll post it and then, kind of talk through with friends, things like that. We may do some joint lives with some others reading the book too, something like that. Haven't really worked all that out yet. But as I got into the book, I'm only 14 pages in. I quickly realized that doing it like chapter by chapter is probably not going to work out really well, just because it has a lot of content. I don't know exactly how long the first chapter is, but I feel like it's pretty deep, which does make sense. I saw this recommended by another like psychology nerd. Oh, hi, Christy. Another person who's like super nerded out in the psychology field, and she's like, this thing is so deep, it will revolutionize the way that you think about things. And I was like, okay, well, usually when a book is referred by multiple people that are sort of aligned with the thinking, I'm like, okay, cool, like that's probably something that I want to read. Well, initially I didn't order it because I was still working through the book and workbook of The Mountain Is You. Also really great, also referred by a couple of very well-educated humans that did not disappoint. I was like, okay, that book, it took me all summer last year, and if I get stuck into a book, I'll read it like in days. Like I'll binge the crap out of a book, just like a Netflix series, I will binge. But with that book, I couldn't because it just had a lot to it. So I could not binge The Mountain Is You, and I'm gonna really try not to binge Attached. I'm gonna try to go through it part by part and really try to get everything out of it. So for those of you joining, this is the Attached book. There will be some various reviews and just information from it. If you want to order the book, it's available wherever books are sold, of course, but on Amazon, it's like under $10 right now. It used to be around $15 mark, so I don't know if it's just like cheaper around the holidays, but I think I got it for like under $7, like $6 and some change, or maybe it was $7 and some change, but either way, not a big investment for sure. So this book definitely, if it really does give all the things that the people referring it have said, it would be more than worth your investment. So if you have not ordered it, come along, because I mean, $8, whatever. Like $8 is not a big investment, and if it helps you even a little bit understand relationships and attachments a little more, I mean, why not, right? It does talk about us having those natural tendencies to attach to other people. We totally know that. We know that's a thing. Like, we know that we are born as babies with that automatic attachment, whether it's to mom, dad, caregivers, whoever. Like, we totally know that. Order the book so that you can do this lovely book review if you want to, for the people that want to. If you're book people, like, okay, go ahead. There are definitely a lot of good books out right now, but there's not really a ton of stuff about attachment theory. It's still fairly new in the psychology world, and even in the first couple pages it was giving a few examples of relationships. Like, here's a relationship problem, here's a relationship problem, here's one. I think it gave 3 examples, and they're saying, like, in normal circumstance, you're going to go to counselors, you're going to go through like all your past relationships, all your history, your childhood, all of these things, right, just to get some answers. Well, it's saying once you understand attachment theory that you no longer have to take all those billion steps first, that it really breaks it down in a very straightforward way to be able to understand attachments really easily without the counseling, therapy, whatever. And that it's also super predictable. And even in the first few pages, I found that to be pretty accurate. I was reading through and I was like, like your mind just automatically starts to light up with ideas and people that may apply to. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I did take some notes, so I'm gonna go through a couple of the notes on chapter 1. Like I said, I did not make it through the whole chapter yet. I think I'm on page 13, which is like maybe halfway through that. So it does not have, you know, a concise chapter 1. Hopefully this does not go super long, but I will give you guys just some of the notes and interesting stuff that I found throughout chapter 1. So it starts with some beliefs about relationships examples. And in the first relationship example, the names of the couple were Tamara and Greg. And it just worked through like the guy having an inability to commit and her thinking like, oh, no big deal, he can't commit, but he'll be different with me. And I feel like I've heard friends say that. I've thought that before. Like I've had those exact thoughts like, well, this is different. Like just because he's done this, or this, like, okay, it'll be different with me. So I thought that was pretty funny that like right off the bat, it showed that belief. That was interesting. In addition, it did also talk about the girl getting a little like anxious, hypersensitive, really invested and worried about what the guy was doing. And we see that on movies and just across the board. We do see that in real life, but especially I was thinking about in movies. Like you'll see the girl and her friends like get done up in their like black hoodies and like go spy on him, see where he's at, what he's doing, like just totally creeping. So I thought that was pretty funny that it brought that up. And then it also said the guy was like pushing the girl away, even though he really loved her, liked her, whatever, he was pushing her away, but not like enough to make her leave. Like he'd push away, but then he'd like apologize or like show just enough affection to keep her. And I definitely was like, okay, I've seen that kind of play out too. Yeah, there's totally puppies trying to help with the video. They're cute. Y'all can't really see them because they're all over the floor. But Puppy Town definitely trying to help out right now. So the author, one of the authors, there's 2 authors, but one of the main authors, Amir, he actually had seen this relationship example that they saw play out in real life. And with that like psychological mind, he couldn't put it together. He's like, okay, well, I don't get it. Like she doesn't normally act like this. He seems like a, you know, good guy. He seems to like her. So why is he acting like this? Like the push away, the pull, like we don't understand. So that was the initial assessment. I was just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what's happening here. And then he was working in a therapeutic nursery and he was doing like attachment guided therapy to help moms and babies bond. And throughout that, he kind of got turned on to the idea of attachment theory and then dove straight in and called his friend Rachel, who is the other author, to try to put all of this science and all of these studies into a book, into something that could help people out instead of those years of therapy, to be able to really explain it and quantify it for people. So I totally loved that idea, just because I do think like the quick shifts and the simple version is what I always crave. Like, okay, any topic, pick anything out of the sky. There's probably some research on it, but it may take you weeks, months, years to really get to the bottom of the research where it helps you in a way that gives you the answers you were looking for me at least. And I'll totally like nerd out on a subject, be an expert, know whatever there is to know. But if there's an easier way, like if I can read a book that's gonna get me there, why would I not? These people have already put the time in, already put the effort in, already done the research for me. So I'm like, okay, sold. Like I'm gonna see what they come up with. The only thing that I did not notice so far, which again, only a few pages in, was that I feel like attached. Oh, hi, Zaza. How you doing, girl? I saw that they were talking about, well, it says in chapter 7, it'll go more into it being about attachment like with parents as children and like plus attachment in adult relationships. So it's not either or. It's not only about how you were raised initially. It also factors in adult relationships that you've had. So I clearly have not gotten to chapter 7 and I'll let y'all know. But I did think it was kind of interesting that it did not mention anything about attachment being like relationship based, and that is something that I have noticed because there are friends or circumstances or even some of my own relationships where I'll notice that I may lean one way or another or show up just a little bit differently in that relationship than in other relationships. So I do think, I don't know if there's any studies yet, haven't gotten that far, but I do think that attachment is also based on particular relationships. So more to come on that. The main 3 types of attachment styles that they talk about in the book. Oh, hi! All my people are getting on here. I love this. Hi, ladies. Hopefully you have read at least a couple pages of this, but if not, there's some gems. So I'm definitely cheating today. A big notebook. I cannot remember all of that. I picked up the book and got like super sucked in like just a few minutes, like a few pages, like, ooh, okay, I like this. So I got sucked in really quickly. So yes, on page 8, they break down the attachment styles. You've probably heard of these before, but just in case you haven't, the main 3 would be secure, anxious, and avoidant. So these are essentially the ways that people perceive and respond to intimacy in relationships, specifically romantic relationships as adults. And it tends to parallel to the way that they attached as babies, children, young folk. So there's that. So you gotta order this thing on Amazon. It's like $8 right now. So it's a good time. And get that thing, it'll be here in like 2 days. You can catch up so easily. Again, this was supposed to be like a book club, it just didn't work out. So, sorry if you guys hear my dogs with their toys. They're excited. Oh yeah. Yeah, I might have to take away the squeaky toy. That's not working out good. Okay, so, Major, come here. Give me your toy. Did not bring the toy, but now they're definitely here. Hi, puppies. Crazy puppies. Okay, so let me focus back in. Go play. Go play. So essentially, Liv, can you put them in the laundry or something? Because they are trying to, you guys can see them real quick because, yeah, I probably should have put them away and I did not put them away. But yeah, they're adorable. They're crazy. You guys gotta go play upstairs. Where's Sissy? She's got treats, okay? She's got the treats. Yeah, treats are important. Okay, so hopefully I can focus back in here. All right, so the main 3 types are the secure, the anxious, avoidant. We've heard of these. Secure is essentially comfortable with intimacy. So they tend to be like warm, loving humans, people that we want to be around. We want to be secure and we want to be around secure, obviously. Just from that description right there, the warm and loving, like we know that's what we want. Oh, they're totally acting up, yes. Okay, so the anxious, they crave intimacy, but they are, or tend to be, very, very preoccupied with their relationships and tend to worry about their partner's ability to love them back. And I have totally experienced that before. Like, I'm not getting what I'm giving here. That type of energy, the anxious energy, for sure. So the last type is avoidant, which they equate intimacy with a loss of their independence, like a loss of their freedom. And they do whatever to constantly try to minimize closeness. So where the anxious is trying to grab for that closeness, the avoidant is trying to push it away. So that's probably the easiest way to describe that. In addition, all 3 types differ in their views of intimacy as well as their views of togetherness. So the way that you handle conflict is going to be different depending on which of these you fall into. The attitude that you have towards sex is going to be different depending on what you fall into. Ability to communicate wishes and needs, and then also expectations of the relationship overall. So I do agree with all of that so far, for real, just because I've seen it. According to this research, it says everyone falls into one of these categories, or very, very rarely in some instances, they would be a combo of the last 2, the anxious and avoidant. Over 50% of the population is secure, 20% anxious, 25% avoidant, and then that other 3 to 5% is that combo of anxious and avoidant. So even though they've established this study after study, they did also see that it held true. So the more they studied it, the more they kept seeing it. And they did do some studies in various countries and in various cultures. And I'm always interested to see that, just because I do feel like religion and culture plays like such a huge role in the norms and how people show up, especially in relationships. But different religions tend to have different patterns. So I thought it was interesting that in different countries, in different cultures, it still did show to be true. So that was pretty cool. So after doing his time in the nursery setting with those attachment bonds, the author Amir said that, hey, I now have a new perspective on that relationship that we talked about earlier, the Tamara and Greg relationship. He's like, hey, I'm looking at this in a whole new light now that I know what I know. He said, like, it was very obvious to him after learning this that Greg is avoidant. He could see that with the patterns of what he was doing, the distancing, the finding fault in her, initiating fights that would set back their progress as a couple, and then his difficulty in like the bonding and saying I love you, which those are all, textbook avoidant traits. He wanted to feel close, but felt compelled to push her away when he felt the intimacy increasing. So if you've looked at any of this before, it's definitely true for avoidance. Like, you will notice that push away, like, oh, getting too close, let me push back. So I felt like that was very, very accurate. And then he also categorized, after his learnings, Tamara as being anxiously attached. She had increased clinginess when he forced distance on her, which that makes sense. Inability to concentrate at work because she was thinking about the relationship, not her job. Constant thoughts about the relationship and oversensitivity to everything he did. It's why she couldn't break it off and why she wanted so much, like so desperately, to be close to him. So it kind of made sense to him after knowing this that, hey, yes, they did love each other, but they just couldn't seem to get along, could not seem to connect. And this is why, because they were speaking different languages. They were not, they were each rolling with their own natural tendencies, but those tendencies were not aligning. Whereas she was craving the closeness, he was craving the separateness. So they're on completely different ends of the spectrum. It has not talked much about the secure attachment style yet, but I mean, just from listening to all the negatives listed about avoidant and anxious, like, you already know that's probably not a good place to be, probably not a healthy relationship. It sounds crazy toxic in just a few words. Like, that sounds toxic. It really does. Oh, hi, Tosh. Hi, guys. Doing good, guys. So I am, for those of you just joining, going through the book Attached. It is chapter 1. It is not the whole chapter because there was a lot packed into this guy, and I couldn't even get through the whole chapter without being like, okay, I got a lot. Like, my brain has a lot right now. I'm gonna just hop on live and go through the first, it's like 13 pages. So going through the first 13 pages, like, that's as far as I've gotten. But I feel like there's a lot of really good information in here that can be helpful. So if you have the ability, order the book. It is about relationships. It's about attachment style, specifically in relationships. I'm a psych major, but also doing my master's program for some life coaching. And a lot of what I am super interested in is like the holistic overall health. Part of that being, relationships. So understanding attachment is one of those big keys to really mastering relationships, whether it's friendships, relationships with kids, so that you don't damage them in one of these areas, or just with yourself, better understanding yourself or your partner by knowing more about attachment styles. At the beginning of the book goes through some different examples of relationships where a psychologist or counselor might spend years, sessions, so much time trying to dissect the relationship problems. Whereas instead of all of that, going backwards into childhood, going backwards into every previous relationship, all of those habits, that they can kind of figure out the differences just from these very basic, straightforward attachment styles. So very intriguing that you can probably make more progress understanding this than years of therapy. And I have a passion for that because I've seen it play out in real life. Like when I say I've spent some money on therapy, like I'm not even playing. Like I've been through things in life, who hasn't? The older, bigger age you get, the more you have probably gone through in life. It's just what it is. Like, honestly, if you've gone through life, you've probably been hurt or gone through things, whether it was in your childhood or while you're adulting. Like there are just things that come up. So I do believe that counseling can really help. I think it's great, but it is backward motion. So you're unpacking old stuff, hopefully being able to heal through it and work through it. Whereas in coaching or just in learning in general, you're trying to make forward motion. The reason that this is attractive to me, like mentally, is that I like forward motion, of course, who doesn't? But I also like anything that is like a quick hack, like the information you need, like the route that you need to really make progress instead of making it super complicated, like making it crazy. You don't have to make it so crazy. If you can grasp the concepts, you can save yourself time. And I am a huge proponent of that. If there is an easier, faster way, sign me up, I want it. So this appears to be an easier, faster way to better understand and navigate relationships. So on, let's see, page 12, it starts breaking down evolutionary ties. You may or may not believe in evolution. That's okay. I'm just going through the text perspective about the evolutionary ties. So John Bowlsby had some strategies that essentially say that every human is programmed to call out a few specific people to really bond to, like in our minds, biologically. Initially, that's going to be parents. Eventually, that's going to be partners. But we're all biologically set to really bond to or be closest to a few people in life. So, in evolution, like he just kind of states this as a fact, an evolutionary fact that we will all, okay, no worries, thank you. So in evolution, genetic selection favored the people who became attached. Why is that? Think about like the caveman theories, because those people that were by themselves, a lone wolf, were also dead. They didn't make it very long. They became prey because they didn't have anyone helping them, no one partnering with them, no one that they were attached to or working with to survive. So those people did not survive. The ones who did survive were most likely those ones that were attached. They had partners, they had those helping them, you know, whether it's hunt, find food, whatever it is. They had helpers, they had other people that they were attached to. So in evolution, genetic selection favored people who became attached because it provided a survival advantage. In prehistoric times, someone alone became prey, whereas those who were attached survived and passed it on to their offspring too. So their kids were bonding in an intimate way as well. So our brains do, according to this study, have that biological attachment system to bond us, you know, as parents to children, to bond us to partners, and in our brain, it has developed a system, an attachment system. And this does explain, if the theory is correct, it explains why, you know, a child separated from their parent gets super frantic and scared and crazy. They search widely, like they just search everywhere, like, oh my God, where's my mommy? You've heard a toddler in a store lost before, probably. Like you've seen a kid who gets lost and just gets terrified. They're looking everywhere, like they'd be turning over chairs, crying frantically, like, oh my gosh, where's my mommy? And they essentially do this until they reconnect with the person that they're bonded to that they are now missing. I remember the first time when I was trying to drop one of my kids off at daycare. It was a whole thing. Like clinging to my leg, screaming, crying. Like she would not eat or drink the entire day when I was gone at work. Like it was a whole thing. And she would seriously wait. The doctors kept saying, oh no, she'll get hungry, she'll eat, it'll be fine. Oh no, she's stubborn. She got that from me. That's another biological. She got that from me. She was stubborn. She would wait all day. She would not eat. She would not drink. She would barely play. She would just like sit there looking at the door like, okay, so yeah, hi guys, when is my mom coming back? So she would cry a lot. Like all of these things I've seen play out in real time. So I do believe that she definitely was more bonded to me than other people who may have been around. So we definitely had that initial bond. And when that was, I don't want to say severed, but whenever I went back to work, she was a little over 1 and she didn't handle it well. So there are those behaviors that we think about, like the toddler that's not with mom, and he calls these behaviors protest behaviors. And then he also says, guess what? We still do these protest behaviors as adults. They may look a little differently, like we're not probably clinging to bro's leg as he walks out the door, but that we are exhibiting a protest behavior when the person we're attached to is no longer in close proximity to us. And he says this is an evolutionary thing, like it's biological, because in the prehistoric times, closeness and proximity was literally a matter of life and death. So our attachment system in our brains developed to treat this proximity as being a big deal, an absolute necessity. Like I have to be close to them to feel safe or to survive and exist. He also talked about humans being heterogeneous, which just means like varying greatly in appearances, attitudes, and behaviors. So there may be, a different species that is closer in nature. Like if you, for example, look at a parrot, you can identify like, okay, that's a parrot, and they all have a lot of tendencies. Their behaviors are the same. You can predict them a little bit more than humans. He says that this is how we fit in and survived in so many ecological niches on Earth. The variety improves the chances that a segment of the population that is unique in some way might survive, whereas others wouldn't. So think about like Alaska, freezing cold. Like they had certain adaptations that allowed them to fare in that weather, or even the super hot climates. Like those people, that group of humans, showed up a little bit differently to be able to survive in certain climates. And that's just part of the evolution that he's discussing, is that without those certain unique traits, they probably would not have been able to survive in the same way. He says we all have a basic need to create bonds, but the way we create them is the different part. Hi, Happy New Year. So in a dangerous environment, it would make less sense to just bond to one person, because that person might get eaten by a tiger tomorrow. All of this also, I feel like, ties in really well with survival mode and all of those theories about survival mentality and just being in that rush mode, the mentality of, oh my gosh, my whole nervous system is triggered, I'm going crazy, I'm in danger. Even though it's not actually like a tiger or bear chasing you, it's just, someone didn't text you back. So all of those theories do, so far at least, align with this attachment theory. All the survival mode, survival mindsets of mostly masculine energy do align to this so far. So I don't know if that will continue, but so far definitely does align. So it says in a dangerous environment, it makes less sense to invest heavily into one person as they may not be around long. It would make more sense to just be less attached, kind of get what you need and move on. And that is what they quantify to the avoidant personality, which if you know any avoidance in your life, you probably agree with. Like those tend to be my friends who like go girl to girl or guy to guy, just like getting what they need, whether that's, sexually, financially, whatever it is, like getting their needs met and moving on. Like no significant investment, no significant closeness. Like we're gonna get really, really close initially, and then we're gonna push away and move on to the next. So if it were a dangerous environment, okay, I guess that would make sense. Like if they're gonna get eaten by a mammoth or a tiger tomorrow, maybe not put all your eggs in that basket. In a dangerous environment, that's essentially the avoidance. And then in a dangerous environment, the anxious would show up as the total opposite. So just like any other examples, they're on completely different ends of the spectrum here. Like they are showing up completely differently, like polar opposite ends of the spectrum. They would be, instead of pushing away and not bonding, they would be all about the bonding, like completely like reeled in, like wanting to bond, wanting to be in super close proximity, wanting to see them, hear them breathe, like everything, like, okay, I might die without them. So instead of letting them out of my sight for us to both possibly die, I'm gonna stay as close, reeled in, like suffocating as possible. So that would be the anxious end. And then the last example would be in a more peaceful, like non-threatening setting. It would make sense. Okay, it does make sense to invest greatly in one individual and really like form a close bond and be intimate and not have to be in super close distance, but also not have to like run and gun and move on, but really invest in that one person heavily because it's safe to do so. And then I'm gonna reap the benefits of that. I'm going to reap the benefits of everything that I've put in, and then so are my kids. So my offspring is going to be more likely to survive and thrive as well by me doing that. That would be the secure attachment. They are not feeling unsafe. They are not feeling the pressure of run. They're not feeling the pressure of hold on. They're just chilling. So just with that analogy, I think it makes it very clear why, if you are not already secure, you want to be. If you notice any of those tendencies on either side of that, this might be a book that you need to read. This might be something that you need to look further into. Are you clingy? Do you get preoccupied with your relationship? Do you have trouble focusing on the other things in life besides your relationship? If so, you might be anxiously attached, and that's something that can be healed. So why not? Why not now? Like, it's a brand new year, guys. Like, you could show up completely differently by healing something like that. Same if you notice that you're on the other end. Are you avoidant? Do you jump in and as soon as you feel close, push away? Like, do you run and gun and go person to person? As soon as it starts to feel close and really get intimate, do you push them away? Do you start fights just because you're feeling a little too close? Do you need a lot of space? Like, not a normal healthy amount of space, but like a lot of space? Like, would your exes say that you push them away, that you don't want to spend time with them, that you don't want to get close to them, that you have excuses to not be close to them? So if you fall on either end of that, this might be a book that could benefit you. This might be something that you didn't even know you needed to learn about, and you saw a random person on YouTube talking about it, and now you do. So if that is you, congratulations. Now you know. Here again is the book. There will be a book review of a lot of what's going on, but this is just the very tip-top start of chapter 1. So kind of gone through the 3 main types, and that is the ends of my notes. So you are now officially at page 13. Order the book. It comes in like 2 days on Amazon, under $10. You can follow along. If anyone is like a content creator, has a YouTube channel that wants to do like a live book review, you can definitely message or comment, let me know, and we can discuss it. Like, I would not want to do a live with someone who is not like-minded, but if there is someone like-minded, that would be, you know, an aligned person to partner with, definitely game to do that, just because I think it adds extra perspective. This has not been much of my personal perspective, but more so just an overview of what we've gone through so far. So for anybody who's been chilling for, now we're over 30 minutes already. Oh my gosh, that went fast. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or any like thoughts, anything like that about this first little part that you want my opinion on, want to go through, any more information on the book, anything like that? I'll look through the comments for a minute or two just to see if you guys have any questions or anything that I may be able to help with. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go in and subscribe. It's $3. Like, hello, $3. Go in, subscribe, because there will be lots of content. And again, like, you can sit there and read it, which I do recommend, but you can also get better perspectives when other people are kind of doing it with you. Combined efforts always open up your mind. And if it's something you need, invest in yourself. Like, you are the most expensive thing you will ever own. So anytime there is a book, a therapy, a program, something that's going to help you out, don't be the martyr mom. Don't be the person who's like, oh, I really need to, focus only on bills or on stacking my savings. Yes, do all of that, but go ahead and invest in yourself too. So if this is something that resonates with you, that you feel like you need more information on, get some information. Whether it's this book, I'm sure too that there are a few sites that will focus on attachment styles. So you can go in and take attachment style quizzes and see if you happen to fall into one of those categories more heavily. Like, are you showing characteristics of an anxiously attached person, of an avoidantly attached person, or of a secure person? And if you are newly dating, I highly, highly, highly recommend that this is something that you guys, you can't really do that in like a fun way. Like, it's not gonna be a fun first date. Like, hey, what's your attachment style? Like, no, it's not gonna be a fun first date question by any means. But whether you're in a relationship or maybe kind of looking around, poking around, even with some friends, like, you can be like, hey, have you looked into attachment styles? Like, what attachment style are you? Because I think it can really open up a lot of information and kind of let you know just a little bit more about the people you're with. Because it does also say that once you understand them, that there are a ton of patterns that are very predictable. And I think that could be really helpful, whether in a work environment, whether in a relationship, in your friendships. If you understand it and have that info, it can certainly be helpful to you. When it talked about that initial relationship where she was feeling like, oh my gosh, am I not good enough? Does he not like me? All of those feelings, that if she had known about this, she probably would not have felt inadequate in any kind of way. She probably would have been like, oh, okay, I see, he's avoidant. Like, maybe that's not a good fit for me. Like, I want to be with someone secure. Or maybe just realizing like, hey, I'm getting really anxious and my energy is not good with this person. I personally believe that attachment style is also relationship based. They have not discussed this yet in the book, and I don't know if they will, but I have seen this play out over and over again, where especially certain friends, like with certain guys, they say themselves, like, they are very secure. They're still doing all the things. Like, we're still, going to yoga, doing all the things that we do, but then they may be in a different relationship and show up a whole different way. Like, they are so preoccupied. Like, we may be going somewhere. Like, I remember going on this trail hike with one of my good friends, and I've known her for years, like years. Always very secure, very confident, like just an amazing woman, like beautiful, smart, just like super magnetic, energetic, great. And all of a sudden gets with this guy and she is like obsessed. Like, she's like looking at his Instagram reels and like his Snap and just all of his stuff, like constantly. Like, can't even get through like an hour, maybe 2 hour hike without bringing him up in multiple conversations. Every conversation would automatically go to him. And that was her showing up anxiously. Like, I didn't know that at the time because I didn't know this, but now it's like, oh, okay. That's what anxious attachment looks like, is preoccupation. And I know some avoidant people too, and they'll tell you, like, yeah, I don't do super well with relationships. My relationships don't last. I get bored really easily and kind of push them away. I know a couple people like that, mostly males, but I can think of at least 2 girlfriends that I have that's the case too. And they're like serial monogamous. Like, they'll get super close, and then just when it's like really close, like, ooh, we're engaged now, it's like, and too close. Pushing away, like all the way back, pushing back. Oh, I saw some comments come in. As friends, I don't know exactly how often I'll go live on it. It really just depends on like work schedule and how crazy life gets, because right now we're on a break from sports, which is actually been really heavenly. We have a tournament starting tomorrow, so the break is very short-lived, but I'm trying to kind of like work through this a little chunk at a time. I was going to try to do chapter by chapter, But again, I feel like it's like really packed in, like a lot of information. So doing a whole chapter is just like too much, like too much info. I'd be here for like an hour and a half. So now I'm gonna do that to you guys. I definitely appreciate everybody who has popped in though. If you're not already, like, subscribe, definitely subscribe. You can message, ask questions, comment on there. I do, at this point in time, go in at least daily and try to reply to every comment. So if you put a question or comment, I will do my very best to go in there and reply to it. I'll also try to link the book just in case you can't find it, but it's pretty easy. Oh, one word title, like you can handle this. It's called Attached. It's written by Amir Levine and Rachel Heller. So it's available for sure on Amazon as well as a ton of other spots too. So thank you so much for joining. Hope this was helpful to you. If you haven't gotten the book, get the book, and we will be back for some more. Those of you that know me know I am like a bookworm. I'm a super nerd. I love all of this. So there are so many books that I would love to do this with. And again, if you are a content creator and want to like do a live together, podcast, something like that, comment that too, hit me up. But thank you all and have an awesome night. I'm gonna jump off here because we're already at 40 minutes. So goodbye, Happy New Year, thank you.